Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, and welcome back. And a happy new year to all of you in the stream at this moment in time. Welcome back to the Positive Perception GT Championship. It's a brand new year and a brand new season here in the POS Per community, and we are starting off at the Nurburgring GP circuit here for round one of season number 10. We've reached double digits at long last. And we're set up for what is going to be an absolute belter of a season, I'm sure. We're at the little brother of the Nordschleife. We are eagerly awaiting it on the Assetto Corsa Competizione service. However, still got a little while to wait. So we will make do with this one for now, but it will generate some great racing regardless. My name is David Wessel, and as always, I'll be looking after the cameras and leading the comms for these this evening. But I'm delighted to be joined again by Ryan Walker in the comms box with me. Ryan, good evening to you. Welcome back, first and foremost. Happy New Year, all that kind of fun stuff. Lovely to have you back, and just as you were saying, a great track to start off the season, isn't it?
Yeah, thanks very much, David. It's good to be back, and yeah, happy New Year to you as well, and to everyone else watching. Yeah, the Nurburgring is one of those. It's one of my favourite tracks. I never ever get bored of lapping around here, racing around here. It's one of those tracks that just has that addiction to it, and it's maybe not the Nordschleife layout like we were talking about, but it's still a fun track, yeah, nevertheless, and it's a technical track.
Yeah, definitely. I was just going to say, it's a track that I personally, to be fair, I've not driven ACC in a long while, but I will always come back to the Nurburgring for testing as much as anything else, because I think it's got a really good combination, I suppose, of loads of different elements, hasn't it? It's got the fast corners, it's got the hairpins, it's got slow kind of twisty sections, it's got a couple of longish straights, you would say. And I suppose it's good for racecraft as well, isn't it? Because you'd fair to say, at least probably 3 or 4 different overtaking opportunities throughout the lap. So all being well, should be right for some action this evening.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great track, and there's plenty of passing opportunities, especially you've got that run down to turn 1 into the Castro S's, where if you get a good run in the exit of the final corner, you can possibly try and make a move into turn 1, but it requires you to be alongside, because of the nature of the corner. Basically, as soon as you start braking, you're going downhill slightly. But if you're on the outside as well into turn 1, you can use that bit of kind of this off camber, because basically you're on the outside, and then basically that turns into the inside line for turn 2 and 3. Yeah,
absolutely. That kind of stadium section, isn't it, is really good at giving you the opportunity to run quite closely with other cars. I think it's like you say, you've got, it's quite a wide corner, especially that first corner. There's maybe not a couple of different good lines through it, but there's a couple of different lines, if that makes sense. Like, you can run deep into the corner, you can try the cut back, you can kind of work a few different angles into there. And I think the same goes for the Dunlop curve as well, isn't it? The one at the bottom of the hill, the hairpin. You can, I don't know about you, I'm more of I will always try and keep quite a tight line. I'll keep quite tight to the curb, but you see a lot of people like V off the corner, for example, trying to get a better exit. So it's going to be interesting to see if that will have any impact in terms of racing this evening as well.
Yeah, quite possibly. I mean, the Turn 8, it's one of those, like you say, it's one of those corners that some drivers like to try and kind of aim for the corner early, and other drivers like to take a kind of wide entry and kind of just V off the corner, as you say, just to try and get a better run. There's so many different lines that you can use, and I think tonight as well, with a big turnout expected, I think it's going to be, I don't like to say, I think it'll be absolutely mayhem, but in a good way. And I think the racing in all classes should be really, really close, because I was looking at the series last day for each class, and I think we're just about at full capacity.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, so there's 32 in the server. We've had a few people sign out. Of course, these things always happen. So 32 to start the season off is about the number we've come to expect now. Good mix, like you say, of pros, silvers, and AM drivers in there. It looks like the categorizing that it's kind of something that we do. It's also based off previous results as well, and obviously changes where people do well in the last season. We promote the top 2 from the AM and the silver classes, and normally demote the bottom 2, vice versa, that sort of thing. So it normally tends to level itself out. But from what I saw on the server in the practice session, the balance of classes seems pretty good this year. So we got a really good battle, of course, not necessarily across the entirety of the classes last year. We had a couple of runaway leaders, for example, in the form of Miles Dixon in particular, of course, took the Pro Championship win. But it's definitely tighter the further down you look. So even from sort of 2nd through 10th in most championships last season, they were super, super close. So hopefully something we shall see again this season. 6 rounds, I said. In terms of this season, I should definitely do a better job in remembering what they are. It's Mazzano in a couple of weeks' time for round 2. Alton Park is the 3rd round, so we're going to be going around the tight and twisty Cheshire Hills on the 8th of February. It's all the way across the other side of the world to Bathurst on the 22nd of February. Circuit of the Americas is the location for the 3rd round, and then 5th round, sorry, I should say. And for the final round, it is a 90 minutes special at Spa-Francorchamps. We might potentially see the Norwich Life Ring by that point. Of course, it won't be in this series, but hopefully we'll get that in ahead of season number 11, of course. Ryan, tonight, tyres only. Fuel is already locked, so if you don't fill enough before you go in, you're kind of stuck. What would your strategy be going into this one? Are you going to be one of those people you're basically just going to cut it in half? Or are you going to try and maybe do something a little bit clever to get around that?
It depends where you qualify in the grid, to be honest. I mean, I would say kind of in a way that the track position and trying to have a good qualifying are going to be absolutely key. I think maybe if you're at the front, or probably like the front pack or contenders anyway, I think splitting the race in half. So maybe say go 30 minutes, basically stopping at halfway and maybe doing the usual strategy. Or if you're further back in the field and you're stuck in a pack, maybe pitting early, maybe stay with 35 minutes remaining. For example, it might be worth doing it, but it depends where you are in the track. Maybe pit early, get some clear air, get some clear track, and put in some really quick laps, and hopefully that might gain you several positions.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's definitely an argument for, well, either an undercut or an overcut, like I say, depending on when you choose to pit. So there's certainly some pros and cons of both. We will also be joined at points this evening by Colin Dunn, who is, probably won't want me to say this, but head steward in the positive perception community. He's not in the channel at the moment, so he won't know I've said that until after the stream's gone live, so we're safe from that. But he's normally a very keen participant in the series. He's actually dropped out of it for this one due to some stuff he's got going on, so very kindly offered to join us in the comms box at points out the season. So it's going to be really interesting, and I think, not to say that you won't, Ryan, of course, but it'll be really good to get Colin's insight into it, because he'll have that knowledge, and if you won't mind me saying, being a real life racer, not at the level of GT3s, but it still has a kind of a comparable, doesn't it, in terms of what to expect on a day-to-day basis when you're in a sim race. Because realistically nowadays things are kind of closing up a little bit, you'd say, in terms of the gap between sim and real life to a certain extent.
Yeah, having Colin, who, like you say, races in real life, so it'll be a good thing. And definitely with regards to real life motorsport and the sim racing, it seems to be getting a lot closer now. That as well. Definitely, you see real life drivers from various series, say GT World Challenge, for example. You see drivers, several real life drivers took part in I can't remember what it was called. It was the GT World Challenge esports series, I think it was, or pro series. And I think several drivers have said that sim racing, when it comes to preparing for real life races, has definitely been a big help.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of getting set up and ready for this race, let's take you round a quick lap of the Nurburgring GP circuit, courtesy of our main man, Mr. Mark Raddenbury, who's in the Aston Martin for this season. Coming down the start-finish straight, down towards the first corner, the Castrol S's, into that kind of stadium section. We talked about it already. Very important to get a good braking point into there and get the foot on the gas as early as you can. Going through the second couple of corners, like I say, going round through that stadium section, goes a little bit wide. It's probably not the cleanest lap. I've told him I would put this lap on. I didn't have enough time to get the best one. Slows down through there, up into second gear as he comes out onto the back straight, onto that kind of smallish back straight down towards the Valvoline and Ford curves. looking to spot that braking marker just as those cones appear on the right hand side, and drops it down a couple of gears, get that turn in, power down, and again slowing down a little bit further for the tighter of the two corners there as he comes out onto another straight down towards the Dunlop curve. This is going to be a really important part of the race. If you get a good exit out of the forward curve going down this hill, might get an overtaking opportunity as you go into this tight right-hander. As you can see, Mark there electing for the one apex route, sticking nice and close to the curb as you see there, and up through the Schumacher S's. You can see just gets a little bit of curb on the inside, just offset of the car, helps that turn in, gets nice exit on the corner as well, and up towards the Michelin bit curve. Again, heavy on the brakes, take as much curb as you dare on the inside and drop down nice and wide to get yourself ready for that long right-hander. Again, really important to get this one right because you've got a nice big run down towards the NGK chicane. It's the endurance layout on this one, so it's the quicker version of the two. Comes steaming through, flat out through here. Spot your braking point probably around about the 70-metre board as you drop down the gears to around about third gear. Try and hit as much of that curb as you can. The Aston can take a fair old chunk of this, as you can see there on that second exit. Takes a little bit of curb on the outside into the Coca-Cola curve to round things off. Down to first gear, get as early on the power as early as you can. A little bit of opposite lock there as he comes out of the corner and through to the line. It's a 157 I think we saw there. In the meantime, though, it looks like we are about ready. In fact, no, we're not ready to get into the session. Ignore me being very silly. I could hear cars out on the track, Ryan, but it turns out they're just ambling down the pit lane whilst the free practice finishes because they've had their briefing. They're now just doing that kind of awkward, like, amble around whilst they wait for the session to tick over.
Yeah, so I thought qualifying was just about to start as well, but yeah, it looks like we got caught out. But yeah, it's one of those things as well. Before qualifying, they said, or some drivers like to kind of just chill out and relax before qualifying. Other drivers like to kind of like amp themselves up, get ready for it, get in that zone, and as I say that, qualifying is underway.
I was going to say you've timed it perfectly, just as Colin Dunn has as well. Colin, good evening to you, sir. First things first,
Hello.
how was the briefing? Is everyone listening intently, I hope, for the first round of the season?
Well, they didn't have any questions, so either we covered everything or they won't listen.
It's definitely one or the other. I can guarantee you, there is absolutely no in between. Speaking on behalf of myself in that situation, we were talking about it before the session started. So saying, obviously, you've got that experience. It's a shame not to see you in the on the grid this season, but lovely to have you in the comms box. So, put us in your shoes going into this race. If you were to be partaking, what's your strategy thinking ahead into the race at this moment in time?
Looking at the pit stop requirements of tyres mandatory and no fuel, I'd be splitting the race almost 50-50.
Sounds like the simplest way to do it. Would you look at maybe doing something different if you get caught in traffic, for example?
Yeah. So if I find, particularly if you catch a group that you're struggling to get through a little bit early, then yeah, you'd have a go. Or if you find that you've got a big gap at the halfway mark, I'd be looking to extend by 5 minutes maybe at the most. But with the way the tyres wear, just split it roughly down the middle.
Yeah, in a 60-minute race, I suppose there's not necessarily much of a gain for pitting. You're definitely obviously not going to get the gain for pitting early, but you're not going to get much of a gain for pitting later either, are you? So it's an important point to consider, I suppose. But we'll see what the stall is set out. It will be obviously not on this occasion, but it will be Carolus Jurgelis in the appropriately named Shroot Farms livery. For those of you who watched the US office, I have recently, so I actually do know the references that are on this car to a certain extent. But I don't know about you, Ryan. I don't know if you recognise this well, but I swear every single time we have gone and watched a qualifying session here at PPGT, Carolus Jurgelis is always the first driver out on track. Am I making things up, or is that genuinely the case from what you've seen as well?
Yeah, I think he was sort of similar like last season. I think he was always out on track first, or he was pretty much one of the many people to go out on track first. So it's one of those things that each driver is different. Some drivers like to be in a pack, some drivers like to be out in clear air in qualifying and just kind of just get some clear track so they don't get hindered or compromised as Jurgelis runs slightly wide there. But yeah, it's not always a bad thing running wide in turn 8, because even if you run wide on the entry, you can, like we were talking about, David, you can square the corner off and still get back in the power early because of the cambered nature of that corner.
Yeah, absolutely. It does give you a bit of flexibility in terms of the way you run through it. I think it's probably one of the few corners you can genuinely get away with it and not necessarily lose too much time. I like to say it's the compare and contrast, isn't it? You can hug the apex and arguably take the tighter route around the corner and save a bit of time there, but then you've got a little bit of a straight there, are the S's, so you can obviously get a bit of time back going up the hill if you get that better exit after being off the corner. But anyway, that doesn't matter now because he's coming through the final couple of corners. He's going to be putting in a valid at a time unless anything goes horrendously wrong. Coming through the Coca-Cola curve, comes out of there, looks nice and clean. Nice and clean and tidy. It's going to cross the line. It's going to set the stall out for everyone else to follow. It's a 1:54.645. Immediately usurped to the tune of 7/10 of a second by this man, Danny Van Oom of the West Competition Racing Team. Colin, you and I were talking about these guys before the stream. There's a bloody ton of these lot in the server, isn't there? They seem to be taking over by force.
Yeah, it's nice to see a team come in with a lot of drivers. A fresh team to the positive section leagues, really. I think because one of our regular drivers has moved over, is that right?
I'm assuming this is an Ash Coupland kind of coup, for want of a better phrase, because he's moved over to them following the disbandment of Pulse, and as a result, yeah, next season everyone seems to have appeared, which is great to see, like you say.
Yeah, and from the looks of it, they're on for a strong performance as well. The times we saw in practice were very strong for some of their drivers. Absolutely.
This is another man who's going to be putting a thought towards taking the victory in the first round of this season. Andre Ursu in the Row Motorsport team car. Good first lap from him, half a second off that of Van Oom at the moment, but nice and close so far. We've got a bigger spread, but of course with a 20-minute qualifying session and only really one lap going in per driver at the moment, plenty of time for things to change and plenty for me to keep an eye on whilst you guys see what's going on, because I've got all the timings in front of me and I can see how quickly everybody's going compared to their lap times. And at the moment, a couple of people are improving, but one person I do want to see what their stall is going to be is this man, Miles Dixon, of course, formerly the owner of Pulse Sim Sport, now racing for Owned Esports, as you can see. Recognise that livery from a mile off. Wonder where he's going to be coming in. And of course, Ryan, last year's pro champion, so he's got a target on his back, you would think.
Yeah, pretty much. I think he's pretty much in dominant form last season, taking the championship, and as he comes across the line, he jumps up to second. He was second, but he gets demoted down to third. And I don't know if it's just me, but looking at that livery, it's giving me what is it, Cadbury chocolate vibes.
I've never thought of that before, but now I will never think of anything else. So thanks for that. That is definitely going to be in my mind. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Jurgelis came through and put that lap time in, so he put himself a couple of tenths quicker. Coupland has also gone in between them. So he's, of course, formerly of Pulse Sim Sport. So as part of the disbandment, he's then moved over to WCR. So hence the change there. And then we've got Dusan Vojinovic, who goes even closer between the four of them and puts himself 200ths of a second off that lap of Danny Van Oom at the moment, who is not currently on a valid lap. So this is going to give an opportunity, at least for the rest of them, to maybe play a little bit of mind game. Do you think, Colin? And do you think about that when you're in a qualifying session? Like, if you kind of know roughly where you're meant to be sitting on the grid, are you looking at the other people and seeing what kind of times they're putting in, or are you just going, right, focus on what I've got to do? That's all I can really control.
I'm just going for what I can manage, set the best times I can. And normally, this is my first chance at a low fuel one. I don't do any practice with low fuel, so it's just eking out the braking zones and trying to go as fast as I can.
Yeah, it's an interesting way. I mean, out of curiosity, what's the reason for not doing a low fuel run? Is it time? Is it just you don't fancy it, or just I don't know? Insert third reason here.
It mainly comes down to practice time. I don't get a lot of time to practice sometimes, so and the race is where the points are handed out. So
true. I'll
practice on high fuel, or normally on mid fuel, so that I can get the setup right, because the setup's so important in this sim. Spend my time on the mid fuel, like 60 litres or so, get the setup nice and stable and consistent. And that way I know I can do the race, I can do it well, I can get the best result there.
Yeah.
And then just low fuel, take it all out, go as hard as I can, and they're quite.
Like it. Good plan. We've got Thomas Krukan saying go Dusan in the chat. He was actually improving there. He would have got on pole were it not for a little mistake going through the NGK chicane. Ash Coupland has gone even quicker and is so close to the back of Danny Van Em. I think this is a perfect display of what we can hope to look forward to in the race, with the top 10 split by less than a second, the top 9 split by less or just over half a second, I should say. And we've got some guys on track at the moment who are also going quicker. Let's have a look back a bit further down the group. We've got Nick Karayanis in the Posper branded machine. Got that lovely Dayglow gleam, which you're never going to miss in a pack of cars. He goes quicker, goes up to P20. That was an improvement of around about half a second there, I believe. So improvement being seen all the way across the grid. Most of them, chaps, are actually putting in faster lap times as we speak, and one of them who will potentially be doing that and look to get another position will be this one, Lisa Louise. She is coming around the final corner. Massive amount of improvement here. We're looking about the tune to about a second. That'll put her up a couple of positions into the top 30. There you go. So still with 10 minutes left to go. What are you doing here, Colin? Are you setting a fresh set of boots, or are you gonna come into this session maybe with I don't know, 15 minutes worth of fuel and just run the whole way through and kind of get your eye in to an extent?
Normally, I'll run it as a couple of stints. So throw 10, 15 litres in, do the best part of 10 minutes on one set of tyres, come in, throw a fresh set of boots on, and try again.
Very nice indeed. You see Miles Dixon there goes second, or did go second place. He went to second place behind Andre Ursu and Ash Coupland. He was telling me earlier, Ryan, he wasn't a massive fan of the BMW, but and it certainly seems to be going well for him at the moment. Tune of a 10th and a half up. He's certainly finding his feet with that car at the moment, it is fair to say.
Yeah, it's strange. I've had that in the past. The BMW I've never really gotten on well with, but for some reason I always seem to do well with it. I don't know if it's a driving style thing, just feeling comfortable with the car. But yeah, if Ash is not feeling comfortable with a BMW and he's still doing well in qualifying, I dread to think what he'll be like when it comes to race time. But yeah, doing a good job in qualifying at the moment. Currently about just about nearly a 10 for a couple of tenths, at least ahead of Erzo, who's coming through the chicane now and looks to be on a decent lap.
Yeah, he's certainly improving. He's going to have to put a pretty good final corner if he's going to get that pole position time off Ash. He's just about, no, he gained a 10th through the corner, but lost it on the exit. So we'll drop back to this Mauserbat. So we'll drop back to Dusan Vojinovic to see how he's improving, because he was 3/10 up. He's then just gone wide. Dropped a wheel on the curb, in the grass, sorry, and invalidates that lap. Dan Hearn in the other Lamborghini from Owned Racing. He is coming through the SGK chicane. Coming into the final corner, he's got a Ferrari in front of him. I think that is Russell Matthewson in front of him, based on my knowledge of the liveries for the first time this season. But he's going to gain a bit of time. What's he going to do to his position? Puts him up into 6th place. So we've got now the top 6 all very much within the 53s. That is some serious pace that we're seeing at the moment. And by the looks of it, we're going to continue to see that improve. This man, Carlos Jurgens, that is wide through the stadium section. Somehow holds on to it and somehow continues the gains, but he's lost that. He's got a little bit deep through there. Let's have a look back at some other cars on track. The Jenkins top in the silver class. Well, he was, Thomas, but he's not anymore, because Joran Omlo has come through in his Aston Martin and has taken that step away from him with 8 minutes left to go.
Yes, David, I've been paying attention to what the other classes are doing, and silver in particular has been a great scrap between Joran Omlo, Chris Jenkins and Mark Cooper. They've been trading times all session.
Yeah, Mark Cooper, as you mentioned there, he's going faster, but he's gone really sideways through the bit curve there. He's lost a couple of tenths. He might, if he continues the gaining, he might get the position back for the pole position silver class. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, looking very, very close indeed. That's one thing we have to remember, of course. 3 classes in the Positive Perception GT Championship seasons. You've got the pros, which are highlighted by the white number boards, silvers appropriately noticed by the silver number boards, and the AMs are the red. So big shout out, I would say, Colin, to Nick Karayanis, of course, first in the AM class and putting himself amongst the silvers as well.
Yeah, I think he just improved again on that lap, another couple of tenths.
Yeah, last lap was a 1:55.5. That was his fastest lap. Do you see him? Yeah, just going through the first couple of corners. Ryan, talk to me about this. I mean, I'm sure you've done kind of, I wouldn't call this multi-class racing as such, but class-based racing to an extent. So if you're in Nick's position right now, you are 6 positions on the grid ahead of your next rival, which is Freddie Coleman Evans, who you can see is the car in P25. Are you paying much attention to that as part of this? Are you thinking, great, right, cool, I've got 6 positions in front of me, I can kind of be maybe a little bit more cautious through the start, I don't have to maybe try and send it to get more cars between them? Or again, are you kind of thinking like, right, look, it's fine, it is what it is, I've clearly got the pace, the amount of positions between the 2 cars doesn't really matter at this stage?
I think it's kind of the way I go about it is kind of I just basically do my own thing, and if I lose say several positions in the race, I'm not really too worried as long as I keep ahead of the next person in class. Then that's all I'm aiming for. But I'm basically just telling myself not to get into any silly scraps with anyone from other classes. It's just not worth it. I mean, I guess towards the end of the race, it's basically if you're in a good position and you're doing well overall, it's maybe worth trying to hold on to those positions. But the way I look about, or the way I go about it, is basically just think about my class position.
Yeah, it's probably
having raced with Nick, I know he won't be interested in what classes other people are in. He'll be looking at the car in front of him and he'll be trying to scrap with it, regardless of class.
Yeah, I'm very much with you on that one, Colin. I raced with him last weekend. We did an endurance race at Daytona, and he was, he had some serious pace, but was very much not bothered about what was going on. He just wanted to find the guy up the road for him and just absolutely bomb it until he could catch up with him. So it's a good attitude to have, I would say. Let's have a look at this man again, Dusan Vojinovic. Hopefully, I was about to say, hopefully we're not going to curse him by going on board with him on a lap this time, but we've done that for 2 times in a row. Sorry, Thomas, if you're wanting to see your friend get a decent position, but to be fair, he's doing all right so far. So here's Yannick Thimesh of another one of the West Competition Racing cars. So they are currently 1st, 2nd, 8th, and I think there's one more, unless I'm mistaken. Oh yeah, they're 8th and 11th as well, because Leighton Austin I saw a moment ago in that rather striking livery. It's certainly a recognisable one. I'm sure Hosper bossman Mark Raddenbury will be looking at him. Speaking of which, let's see where he is. Probably a little bit lower than he would expect to be at the moment, but Colin Ryan, we all know this at this point, and if anyone's not in our Discord server and hasn't heard him talking about it, Mark is running a brand new setup on his rig tonight. So he's got a new direct drive wheel, new set of pedals. So I'm not sure we're going to expect too much out of him this evening because he's probably still getting used to them, having plugged them in the grand total of about 3 hours ago.
Yeah, I think if you're running new equipment for the first time, wheel pedals or basically even new rig as well, I think it probably takes you. Or probably took me at least a week or a couple of weeks at least just to get properly comfortable. And I think he just finishing tonight for him will be a good achievement, and he picks it basically a good haul for points as we look at Richard Pixley back this season with the Nissan GTR again, and it's the GTR unfortunately not the quickest car out there on ACC these days, but still it's good to see Richard out there kind of deciding to be different as he runs wide on the exit of the chicane, and it pretty much ruins his lap.
Yeah, it was going to be a quick lap as well, so he had a chance there to get a couple of positions. He was about 4/10 up, but lost it, as you see there, going through the SGK chicane and putting a couple of wheels onto ground. It's so easy to do that though, Colin, isn't it? Like, I'm sure you've done it many times. I'm sure we all have. It's so easy going through that corner just to put the foot on the gas a little bit earlier than you probably should do, because you know you're chasing that lap time and end up dropping a wheel onto the gravel.
Yeah, there's a couple of awkward bumps through the middle of that chicane as well. And if you catch those wrong when you get on the throttle, then you just run out wide, find that big curve, and it just sucks you off the track.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I've done it so many times. It's 100% that. It's the fact that it drags you away, doesn't it? These curbs at the Nurburgring are really good at that, and they're the same on the Nordschleife as well. I found from racing that on other sims. Like, as soon as you hit the wrong curb, you basically just disappear off into some sort of wilderness. It feels like, because you're immediately 3 or 4 feet off the side of the track where you want to be at that particular point. So important to make sure you hit them properly, and that little S section at the back end, which Jurgelis is coming towards now, definitely one of, if not the most important one that we can find.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the tracks with the most aggressive curves. There's a few different places, like you say, that you just don't want to use them.
Yeah, exactly. Jurgis used them well there, but went a little bit deep into the final corner. In fact, it looks like he's backing off to set up another lap. At the moment, we've got a couple of improvements going through. Are we going to get the curse of the cameras again? We're not for Vojovic so far, but he did lose 0.2 of time, so maybe we have to a certain extent. But it looks like most of the guys in the top 5 are improving, or at least on the cusp of improving, it seems, at the moment. A couple of people back in the pit lane. There's 1.5 minutes left to go, so anyone in the pit lane now is not going to get back out and put on an improved lap time. So, as it stands, Ash Coupland will be the pole position sitter. The Mr. I don't particularly like this BMW will at this point be starting from pole position and getting that all-important run down to the inside of the first corner in about 10 minutes time. Danny Van Oom is out on track. He is about halfway round the lap at the moment. You can see he's just coming into the Michelin curve. So he will, you'd think, get another lap time in. He's 0.5 tenth off at the moment. He is not improving enough right now, nor is Andre Ursu, who is literally the next car up on track, I believe. The 78 car. Yes, he is. Dixon is also on a flying lap. Leighton Austin, though, has improved, not by enough. He goes 5th, and as a result, drops back into the pit lane. Vojinovic will also get another lap time in. So it's all systems go at the moment. We'll see what Danny Van Oom can do. Of course, like I say, he's going to have another chance, as is Andre Ursu, who looks like he's setting up for a flying lap instead. Danny Van Oom is going to cross the line. Is he going to improve? No, he's not. Does not improve. That is super close, though. I mean, that is that kind of thing. You're wheeling the car on, aren't you, Ryan? As you're coming out the final corner, thinking, "Oh, just let that Delta bar turn green, please." Sadly, in that instance for Danny, didn't, and he hasn't improved. But he's got another lap time to try and do that.
Yeah, you got to cross the line just in time to try another lap. But yeah, it's one of those things. As soon as you get around the final corner and head onto the home straight, you keep looking at your Delta bar, hoping it'll go green. But when you see it going down and just missing out and going green, it's basically like, oh, I was so close.
Exactly. We can see Miles Dixon. He is currently finishing his final lap. He will not improve by the looks of it, barring a titanic final sector. He absolutely launched over those curves, but as a result, looks like he's taken to the pit road and he's going to practice a pit stop entry instead. This man is the biggest improver as it stands on the final lap of this session. Checkered flag has flown, so no one will do another lap after. We've got Adam Asalovic, who's also putting in an absolute corker of a lap at the moment. We'll catch to him first, actually, because he is further around the track at this moment in time. He has just lost about 0.5 second of his advantage, though. It will be enough to get him well within the top 10, and it looks like the top 10 is going to be split by around about 0.7 of a second, which is absolutely ridiculous. If he can keep this going, goes through the SJK chicane, but doesn't. Oh, just hits that curb in, like you said, Colin, exactly the wrong way. Loses the time, goes off and invalidates the lap. Vojinovic, will he do the same thing? No, he doesn't. That is a lovely, clean line through that chicane, and that's gained him a heap of time as he comes into the Coca-Cola curve. Can he keep it nice and clean and tidy? It might not be enough for pole, but it might be if he gets the right exit. He's going to cross the line any second now. What's the time going to be? It's going to be third place. It's a 1:53.567. Danny Van Oom and Andre Ursu are both yellow flags on track. They will not improve. The only man who could potentially improve is Andrew Priadko, but he does not. And there we go then. So Ash Coupland will start this race curtain raiser for the season in first place. Danny Van Oom will be alongside him. So it is an all double WCR front row. And chaps, I mean, don't all go at once, but if that's going to be the start of qualifying, I'm very intrigued to see what the race is going to bring out for us this evening.
Yeah, just if it's that close in qualifying, I dread to think it'll probably be much closer in the race. And turn one as well, I think, turn one's going to be with so many cars on track at the same time, and especially heading down to turn one. It wouldn't surprise me if we see some contact into turn one, just because of everyone will be checking up, and it may cause a bit of a concertina effect.
Yeah, hopefully it keeps itself nice and clean. But like you say, it's always difficult to tell. It's a nice tight corner to start things off for the season. So exactly the way you probably don't really want the season to start, but it's always good fun regardless. Right, let's get the old Posper segue underway. Get the batteries into that one, and let's take you down through the grid before we kick things off for this first race of the season here at the Nurburgring GP circuit. Colin, what are you saying to yourself before you start this race? Are you kind of putting any words of advice through your head before you kick things off, or are you just kind of clearing your mind, going what will be, and just get on with it?
I will be sat there going, "Don't make a mess of turn one. Don't make a mess of turn one. Don't make a mess of turn one."
Is there a certain amount of times you do that for good luck, or is that just a random amount of time?
Until the session starts and the car is rolling.
Very good move indeed. Yeah, make sure you start the car, then make sure you can do the rest of it as well. Right, let's take you through the grid for this first round of the season here at the Nurburgring GP circuit. As we mentioned before, it is an all WCR front row. Ash Coupland will lead the way from Danny Van Erm into the first corner. Dusan Vojinovic is joined alongside by the Ferrari 296 of Andre Ursu in fourth place. It's then Miles Dixon, followed by Leighton Austin, formerly of Pulse Sim Sport. Both formerly of Pulse Sim Sport, I should say, now of Owned and WCR respectively. Dan Hearn of Owned Racing, joined by Carlos Jurgelis in that Shroot Farms livery on the fourth row of the grid. Gabriel Gaspar of Posper sits on the fifth row of the grid along with Yannick Dimesh in 10th position, running out the top 10. Adam Isalovic is joined by Russell Matthewson on row 6. Rennes Delange, new to this season, is on 11th place. It is in 13th place of the grid. The silver pole position driver Joran Omlo in 14th. Chris Jenkins just behind him, also in the silver class, and Andrew Predko and Dennis Kraft are the rounding out of the pro class drivers on the grid. Mark Cooper lines up at 18th place with Dominic Chamont and Nick Karianis just behind him. Greg Hewlett and Mark Christopher, a returning attendee to the season, has been away from us for a while, but back now, is on 22nd place. Richard Pixley and Bukacic is in 24th place. Ollie Giel and Freddie Coleman-Evans, 25th and 26th. Hosper Bossman, Mark Raddenbury in 27th with Bram Cran alongside him. Steve Derrick and Lisa Louise are on the penultimate row of the grid, and your final two on the grid for this evening is Oppo and Tobias Hackanson, who will round out the grid for this one. Plenty to look forward to, chaps. Who's your pick for the win? Ryan, I'll go to you first. I'm going to put you on the spot because I know that I know that people love it when their commentators do that. If you're picking your winner for this evening, we've got an hour race, we've got a permanent stop for tyres, we have no refueling. Who's your pick for the win?
Oh, that's a tough one. Qualifying was so close. The top three are all relatively close, and they were relatively close in qualifying as well. But if I was to pick a winner based on pace, if you can get away and keep a good pace, I think it's hard to look by Ashley Copeland.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be interesting to see whether he can capitalise on that pole position. One thing I'm sure he'll be thinking in his mind, because I know he's fallen foul of this on a couple of occasions in the past, will be that he makes sure that he doesn't forget to take himself out of map 8 or whatever the safety car map is on the BMW, because he'll want to get as good a start as possible. Colin will be back with us in a minute. Picked Tubes Matt Damon in the chat saying good work, Ashes. Yeah, very impressive for him. I said earlier, it's impressive to see how well he's done, considering he actively mentioned he's not a massive fan of this BMW, so he's doing well considering that in mind. And Pixley in the GTR, the madman. Yes, it is. Well, you said it as well, Ryan, didn't you? It is definitely the lesser spotted car. Is the Japanese motor, and it's a shame really because it's a lovely car. I'd say it's quite fun to drive. It's just a shame it's not the quickest in the sim anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think most of the time, or the reason rather, is that car is really quick because it's hardly got any. It's got downforce, but it's hardly got any drag, which probably means in a straight line it's probably the quickest car. But when it comes to corners, it's a bit of a it's a bit of not the best car to have, and it's just a shame it's hardly used these days. But
yeah,
it was good to see a bit of variety out there.
Absolutely, we've of course. I'm sure the commonplace question is anyone running a bop in this season and anything like that? We've not put a balance of performance filter in for this season. We're reviewing it, we'll have a look at it, and if we feel it's appropriate, then we'll put it in probably for next season. But for this one, no ballast against any cars, so it's free reign, pick whatever you want and see how you get on. I'm assuming that is Yannick Dimesh, who is deciding to take a rather interesting line through the first couple of corners, probably to get something for the social media for WCR. You'd think, right? Trying to get all three of them nice and close together.
Yeah, absolutely. Trying to get a bit of team promotion there, and not always a bad thing. Yeah, probably a good thing to show your sponsors as well. And if if I'm correct, the team at Ashley and Danny raced for, I believe they've raced in, or I recognise them anyway from racing in the SRO Esports series as well, in the endurance series. So yeah, good to see them. Good to see them in the positive perception racing series as well.
Yeah, definitely. Like I say, it's well-known name, WCR. So yeah, really good to see those guys going in, and it's really nice to see. I think from what I can understand, I think Miles Dixon, obviously formerly of Pulse, we mentioned a couple of times. Ash was racing for Pulse for a little while, as was Leighton Austin. From what I can understand, I believe that when Pulse essentially disbanded, Miles was pretty pivotal in terms of making sure that everyone in the team had somewhere to go afterwards, which is a really, really nice thing to do. I mean, a lot of people in that position, I can imagine the stress. In fact, I know the stress of running a team. I run the Pulse Pro Esports team. It can be easy, I'm sure, for someone just to go, tell you what, nah, I'm giving it up, and you lot can kind of fend for yourselves. So it's a really nice touch for him to help them move on to something. And by the looks of it, it seems to be working out well so far. For those two, both in the top 10, Coupland in first and Austin in sixth. So as we come round, Ryan, through onto the back straight towards the SGK chicane, you're lining up. Presumably you're wanting the inside line into the first corner, right?
Yeah, I think Tier 1's probably maybe the best place to be on the inside. But on the other hand, if you're on the outside and you're on wide, and you can, in a way, kind of still use that outside line to get some momentum on the exit. But I think from a safety standpoint, I think Turn 1 inside is probably where you want to be.
Yeah, 100%. I think I found, when I've done races in the past, I think the trouble that you get is that sometimes when you go for the outside line, you might think it's better because it's easier to avoid. But I think the problem, especially when you're in a track like this, is that you go through the first corner. If someone goes down the inside and essentially becomes a bowling ball, you're stuffed. There's nothing you can do. You are basically a passenger for anything that happens. Let's hope none of that happens for this evening. As you can see, all the cars lining up side by side here, getting ready for this curtain raiser here at the Nurburgring GP circuit. Thank you to all of those of you who are in the cinema. And we are underway here for Positive Perception GT Series number 10. And Danny Van Oom actually gets the jump on his teammate Ash Coupland as they head down towards the first corner for the first time. Vojinovic and Ursu side by side. Dixon just sitting in behind there. Austin looking there. Jurglis on the outside as he bit of contact between the two BMWs, and Vojinovic uses that chance to get at the inside. A bit of more contact, and Dixon takes the lead. Goes from 5th to 1st in the form of one corner. What a barnstormer of a start for the Lamborghini. Vojinovic follows him through. Coupland in 3rd, Ursu in 4th, and Danny Van Oom, as part of that, has actually gone back up into 4th now, but it's down to 5th for a second. Carlos Jurglis in 6th place. Yannick Dimesh is in 7th. Dan Hearn has dropped a position down into 8th. Gabriel Gaspar is up into 9th. And Leighton Austin has had a bit of a horror story of a start. He is down into 8th and down into 10th place. But the big start there, Ryan. Miles Dixon managed to make a little bit of room for himself and just shot through into the lead.
Yeah, he had a great start, and I think basically he took full advantage of the mayhem that was going on in front of him with the Coupland and Van Oom, and I'm not sure who that was. It made it 3 wide into turn 1, but it just caused a bit of mayhem, and Miles Dixon's just came through and said, "Yep, I'll take that. I'll take the lead, guys. While you fight amongst yourselves."
Reminds me very much of the Oscar Piastri moment at Qatar back last year when everyone decided to kind of go exit stage left, and Oscar's just gone, yeah, I'll go through. Miles has done basically the same thing, hasn't he? He's gone, yeah, there's the gap, I'll go through that. Thank you very much. See you later. And I'm sure what he'll be hoping for now is a nice boring race to the flag. I don't think he's going to get it, though. Based on what you can see, Ash Coupland's actually dropped down into 10th place. So let's see if we can find out what's happened to him. See if we can spot any contact on his end. I can't see anything that's been registered on my side, so it looks like he may have just had a bit of a moment potentially on that first lap. So he is going to be absolutely raging it himself as he goes wide again for the SGK chicane. It's going to drop him out of the top 10 entirely, with Dominic Chamont, who's going to try and get the position. He's had an absolute cracker of a start as the Frenchman. I'm sure he has. He's up 7 positions off the start, Ryan. Fantastic stuff from him. Now leads the silver class.
Yeah, he does indeed, and I have to say, he was one of those drivers as well, similar to Dixon. Basically took advantage of everyone squabbling amongst themselves. And what about this guy? Coupland is actually, I take it back, Craig Hewlett's had an incident in turn 1, and I've got a feeling that could be contact.
Yeah, let's see what happens. Yeah, let's see what happens as he comes into the first corner. Is he getting a little bit late on the brakes? Because at the inside of his teammate, I think that is there. And yeah, a little bit of contact. You'd argue that is self-forced, but rather sensibly. We can see Craig there. It looks like he's just waited a second, waited for it to calm down, got a little bit of space on the inside, and then just managed to turn his way around. Colin, I can see you back with us. You've just dropped into the chat to see how everyone else is getting on. What was the vibe in the chatter between some of the guys who were staying in the server and on that voice chat in there just now?
There's a little bit of annoyance from a couple of them. Unfortunately, both Pow and Mark got involved in opening lap incidents and they've lost quite a bit of time. But apart from that, everyone relatively positive. A lot of time to go.
Absolutely, yeah. Still 56 minutes left to go in this one, so plenty of time. Not even the 2 laps completed as it stands, but as it stands in this moment in time, it is Miles Dixon of Only Racing who leads the way in this one. Let me see, saw at the start there, got a fantastic start. Just basically went through the gap that just appeared for him, and as a result got himself up there. You can see Alec Thermish, going up against Dan Hearn as they go through that fast right-hander up towards the SGK chicane. Just gets almost barged out the way, I should say, and goes down into 7th place and takes a hefty hunk of curb for his troubles. It's Andre Ursu who's in 3rd place. He's got Dusan Vojinovic ahead of him behind Miles Dixon in the lead as Miles Dixon puts in the fastest lap of the race of 1:55.475. Andre Ursu has got Danny Van Erm, Karel Jurgelis and Dan Hearn close for company. The top 10 are separated, Ryan, by about 4 seconds, which is exactly what you want to see in a race like this, and it shows us that time differential in qualifying is clearly carried over quite nicely into the race for us.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing with this track as well, that it's pretty much difficult to get by people, so you'll probably see people stuck in a train or stuck in parks. And yeah, I was about to say as well about Ashley Copeland. It's just unfortunate at the start he had, because he had a great qualifying, taking pole position, and unfortunately the first 2 or 3 laps it's just been a bit, just watching him, he's been a bit ragged.
Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? I can imagine it's frustrating being in his position there, isn't it? Because you've had a really strong qualifying, and then unfortunately within the space of essentially 2 minutes off the start, you've dropped out of the top 10 and you're 10 positions below where you started. So he's got a lot of work to do. If there's anyone who I know will put his head down and he'll give it a good go, it is that man. And like Colin pointed out a moment ago, a long way to go. 55 minutes the journey still in this one, so plenty of opportunity for Ash to get some positions. First on his list will be Adam Isalovic as he looks at the inside, gets a fantastic run for the Schumacher S's and gets the move done before or as they go into the braking zone for the Michelin curve. So he is now back into the top 10 as Copeland, and Colin, he'll be focusing his way front forwards. Look, we've all been involved in an incident like that. What's your kind of, again, I'm looking at mindset here, what's your kind of mindset as you come out of that? Are you going to be thinking, right, I've got to push now? Or are you kind of, right, take a lap or 2, get back your head in the game, and just kind of focus on realising again the fact there is still a hell of a lot of time left in this race?
For me, I tend to lose my head a little bit for a couple of laps. Red mist as it is. And just try and calm down a little bit, find a rhythm, and find those apexes, find the braking zones, get that rhythm. Because you've probably got some space to yourself.
Oh my word, sorry Colin, I've just seen a huge incident between Dan Hearn as he's gone into the first corner there. I'm just going to try and catch this on the camera. He is absolutely blown into turn 1. I don't know if he's going back. Oh no, he didn't, sorry, my apologies. Immediate apologies to Dan Hearn there. It wasn't his fault. He's actually come across, I think that was Jurgelis, he's come, or one of the, it might be Thimish, sorry, he's come across. And as a result, Jurgelis was very much just a passenger there. Sorry Colin, you were saying.
Yeah, just trying to get your head down again and find the rhythm and start picking the laps up. Start picking off the cars in front of you and see where you can get to. Although I have noticed one of our usual front runners, Russell Matthijssen's, decided that after his incidents on the opening lap, he's just made his pit stop.
He has indeed, yeah. As Mark Raddenberry also in the pits in P31, so they're going to be our kind of our control variables, you'd call them. So we're going to keep an eye on them now that they've decided to serve their pit stops early doors and see exactly where they come out. We'll be keeping an eye on that. We'll also be keeping an eye on the pit stop times as well, just to get a bit of an idea. If you want to see all of that all that live timing, check out that pinned message in the chat and have a look, and you can keep an eye on it through Pitwall Live. We're one of our partners through this, and Dan Hearn is essentially a rolling roadblock at this point. You can see that is Rennes de Lange That is Chris Jenkins, that's Mark Cooper, who are all battling to try and get round him. That Lamborghini, Ryan, is looking very second-hand, and as a result, he is losing a lot of time, and you'd expect he is going to pit on this lap.
Yeah, if I was him, I would dive into the pits now and just try and get some of that damage fixed. But as you see now, he's just been pretty much passed easily in a straight line because that front end and pretty much aero is pretty much second hand as he does it. Actually, he does go into the pits.
I thought he was. Yeah, I thought he wasn't going to pit then. That was very strange.
But,
we've got some heartbreak down the grid. We mentioned Russell, Matt Ison. He's got himself a stop-go 30 for speeding in the pit lane.
Oh, he has indeed. Oh, that is heartbreaking for the Hexagon Nation car. Back up to the lead of this race. Vujinovic is looking like he's going to have lost the position now. He's going to drop into third place. He might even drop out of the podium spots altogether, and it looks like he will because Danny Van Oom is going to use that opportunity. He's going to follow through the Romanian of Andrei Ursu and get himself up into third place and second place for Andrei Ursu, respectively. Vujinovic looks like he's been rough and tumbled as part of that point, and I'm sure Thomas in the YouTube chat will be cursing at the screen as he watches his compatriot fall down at the grid as a result. Further down the grid is Bram Kran in the Era Esports car. Showed me a sneak peek of his new livery for the team earlier on today. Looking very, very nice indeed. Can't wait to see that one get its way into this series. But he's got a little bit of a train forming behind him, Colin. I'm going back to mindset again. As you can probably tell, you're an experienced driver at this stage. You've got, 5 drivers within a second of each other behind you. Is that something you're very mindful of? Again, are you just going, right, hit every apex, just get through, they'll fall back eventually?
At this point, looking forwards, trying to hit your apexes, just keeping that eye on the first car behind you, making sure they're not pulling a silly move. But you should be okay. As we see here, telegraphed a move from Nick.
Yeah, Nick
trying to put the pass on.
Basically doing exactly what you said Nick would do, and it doesn't matter what class he's in, he's going to go for the move regardless. Nick, of course, leading the AM category at the moment, so he's got a few positions back to Steve Derrick, but the best part of about 0.3 of a second, because Steve Derrick is that McLaren at the back of this train, as Nick goes a little bit gets it a little bit wrong through there. But actually, interesting move here, Ryan. Pits in 10 minutes into the race. I think maybe he's recognised, right, I'm in some traffic, I'm probably losing a bit of time. Sensible move, do you think, at this time of the race, or do you think maybe he's gone a little bit too early?
I think possibly it could be a little bit too early. I think if I was him, I maybe would have tried to get to maybe the 40-minute remaining mark, or 35 to 40-minute remaining mark, and they kind of just chat, because they pitting right now 10 minutes into the race. It's kind of, I don't know, you risk possibly coming back out into traffic. It's maybe the traffic has been caught up in the first lap mayhem, so it's a bit risky, I think, anyway.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Ryan. And I'm looking at where Mark Raddenbury is one of our few pit stoppers so far. He's only a few seconds in front of the leader, so we're going to see those that are making the early pit stops very quickly having to deal with being under blue flags.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Mark Raddenbury just coming through. I think that is the bit curve he's coming through. You see on the track map there, the 750. He's got Miles Dixon going through. Well, he's now gone through the bit curve, so he's about 4 or 5 seconds behind him, you'd think. And that is the problem. You get to the point where you start getting those blue flags, it becomes a pretty annoying position to be in, because you have to give that position back to a lot of people. So it can be a risk. Sometimes it can pay off, sometimes it really can bite you in the backside. So we'll have to keep an eye on Nick and see where he comes out. He has already escaped the pit lane, so he's got about probably 15 seconds to mark, I would think. Just looking at it, yeah, it's about 15 seconds. As you see, Poe's pit as well. Mathiassen's still in the pit, so I think that is his race done and dusted. So Karayanis now takes the position of being the man to keep an eye out for, who has served his pit stop. He is the fastest or the highest, I should say, of the running cars who has already served that mandatory pit stop. So one to keep an eye out for sure as we go towards the end of the first quarter of this race. At this moment in time, Miles Dixon is continuing, I should say, to extend that gap in first place to this man, Andrei Ursu, who I've just realised has got a car very much inspired by the Romanian flag. Apart from the fact it's more of a gold than a yellow, but I like that. It's very what's the word I'm looking for? very. There's a word where you're really kind of good for your country, and I can't think what it is. It's not compatriot.
Patriotic.
Patriotic. That's the word I'm looking for. I had compatriot in my head, but thank you, Colin. Can always count on someone else to help me out, as I can see Lisa Louise slowly running through the final couple of corners. So might have had an instant there. So that's her dropping back a little bit of time, but Ursu didn't have the best of starts, but is now seemingly finding his feet and getting a bit of time back on the table, and he'll be, I'm sure, trying to focus his efforts on trying to get a bit of time back to Miles Dixon in first. The top three at the moment, Ryan, all last lap within a tenth of each other on their last lap time, so it's very, very close. We're not starting to see any kind of major shifts in that at the moment, but it is very, very close between the three of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And Miles Dixon pretty much leaving where he left off last season, and they basically doing a good job up at the front at the moment, and they got a decent gap behind him. As Urso runs a little bit wide and gets a bit of a twitch in the middle of the final corner, and that's going to allow Van Aerm a chance to possibly get a run down the straight, heading down to turn 1. Yeah,
we'll see what happens as they go into the braking zone. Ursu shapes to the inside, covers him off. A little bit of contact between them, a little bit of a hip check between the two of them. What's Van Aerm going to do here? He just looks for that cutback. Is he going to get alongside as they go into the stadium section? He's going to be going the long way round, but it might get in the run. A little bit of contact again, gets nudged wide a little bit. Ursu holds on to the position and holds on for another lap. I can just see that Van Aerm has got his rain light on by the looks of it, which is an interesting move. There's definitely no rain in the air this evening, as he goes quite tight through the exit of the stadium section, and as a result loses a bit of time. A little bit of a flashing for his rival ahead of him, maybe just to do with the slightly rough and tumble approach that Ursu has taken there. But I think they've given as good as they've got in there, Colin. I think that's one of those where a little bit of hip checking from side to side. It's okay, isn't it, when it ends up like that?
Yeah, as long as everyone keeps going and we've not got any advantage gained, then yeah, bit of fair racing, tough, hard. I think they'll shake hands afterwards.
Absolutely, yeah. They'll go, that was good fun. We enjoyed that. Here is your leader of the silver class, Joran Omlo in the Aston Martin. It's a beautiful livery, I have to say. Even if I'm a little bit biased, not because I made it, but because it is a positive perception design that's been done. Mark, smashing that one out of the park. That blue is absolutely beautiful. He has got Kraft behind him on track at the moment. David Kraft, to see in the appropriately named Jamaican bobsleigh team. I'm not sure what the background is beyond that, but maybe we'll have to ask him after the race. This is, of course, one of those interesting ones, isn't it, Ryan, where they are in different classes. So Joran doesn't necessarily have to do too much here, but looking at the lap times, they're pretty level playing. So it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out, whether David's going to make a move, whether he's going to sit behind him, and alternatively, whether Joran is actually going to try and hold on to the position, or if a move is made, is he going to make it relatively straightforward for the McLaren to come past him?
Yeah, I think if I'm Omlo, and David tries to get a run or tries to make a move, if I'm Omlo, I wouldn't fight it too much. I mean, technically they're in different classes, but they're still racing in the same race, if that makes sense. But I think if I'm Omlo, I think of the long game and just let David go and think about just trying to keep a hold of that silver class lead, because the silver class, if he did take the silver class win tonight, it's not an overall race win, but it's still a race win at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely, and it is a top 10 they're fighting for as well. Let's not forget. So always has puts a different spin on things, doesn't it? In that respect, as we can see here, Leighton Austin under all sorts of pressure from Gabriel Gaspar, of course, one of the positive perception esports drivers. He's racing under his own name this evening, which is lovely to see. There's no requirement when you're a member of the team to race in one of our liveries for the season, so you get your own choice. And Gab's gone for a beautiful kind of orange and black contrasting livery, that DuPont on the backside, on the outside. Hornet Motorsports, not a name I recognise, but a very nice livery to boot. And he is proving exactly, Colin, whilst when we were talking about this before that, I was talking a little bit about the classifications process we have here at Podspur, proving to us why he is definitely a pro driver at this stage of the race.
Oh, very much so. I'm going to ask to just change our topic a little bit. Looking at the battle for third in, what is now second in the silver class, Mark Christopher is being chased by Pixley DeLange and Mark Cooper. And this is a hell of a scrap that's going on with these four cars.
It really is, yeah. 4 cars in the mix, couple of different classes to boot as well. But Mark Cooper managing to hold on at the moment in that Coca-Cola style livery. Very nice indeed, has to be said. Looks like making me quite thirsty looking at that. Rich Fixley, you can see, Ryan, you mentioned the fact that that GTR has got quite a bit in a straight line. Proving the point there. I mean, he got he got a much better exit or got a very good run, but that car really quick straight line is going to go around the outside. That's Poe off in the background. He's back mark. Oh, contact between DeLange and Pixley there. Looks like they've both managed to get out of it. That's given Mark Cooper the chance to make the position, and Mark Christopher is disappearing off into the sunset and going, see you later, chaps. I'm off. You carry on with your own little battle, and I will just sail off into the sunset and hold on to my P2 in class. Thank you and good night.
I was about to say, Pixley, it might be worth Pixley taking a wide line to try and try and get back on the power early, but I think he did. Yeah, he was thinking about that, but unfortunately, when he went to do that, he got tagged from behind, and that compromised his exit. And Christopher pretty much just took advantage and just scaffolded away, and it holds on to that 12th position overall and second in the silver class.
Yeah, definitely. It is one of those. It can be difficult, and this is the peril you have of. And this isn't something you can avoid, really, but it's the perils of being in a battle when you've got a car that you want to overtake, but also a car that wants to overtake you. You have to manage that gap, don't you? You have to be really mindful of, yes, one route for a corner might be the better one for you in terms of trying to get the position, but if you have got a gap like you did there, DeLange is always going to go for that, isn't he, Colin? If he goes wide, if Pixley goes wide, you'd be a fool not to at least try and shift your nose at the inside and just try and put him off a little bit, no?
Oh yeah, if they've got that wide line, got the car on the outside, and it looks like they're going for the outside line around the car in front, you're going to try and follow the car in front and get your nose up the inside. And as we've seen Mark Cooper make a mistake there, looks like he's going to lose that spot to DeLange.
Yeah, he's just got a bit of a swapper on under the brakes. That Ferrari can be a bit of a handful at the best of times, to be fair, so I'm not surprised that's happened. We've got Dominic Chamon, who's just going to try and, I would think, get onto the back of this. His early gains in the race have kind of fallen foul a little bit. He's dropped down. He's only gained the 3 positions off its grid spot. It was a little bit more at the top end of this race, but still plenty of time for him to get through. Unbelievable that we're only 20 minutes in and we've seen as much action as we have, which is quite impressive. The top 4 have started to dissipate a little bit, but Vojinovic in 4th place will cut to him because he has got a little bit of a train forming behind him. That is all the way back, pretty much, to Adam Misalovic in 9th place. He's just off, but he is that Ferrari at the back of this train. So that is 3 Ferraris, a 3 BMWs, a McLaren, and a Ferrari in this battle. 3 very good cars in the sim at the moment. You'd argue probably 3 of the strongest cars that are available to those in there right now. If you're in one of these, Ryan, what are you picking as part of that? I know I've got a preference. It's probably personal to a lot of people. I'd go for the McLaren. Are you thinking McLaren, Ferrari, or BMW if you've got a choice that you have to pick?
Well, I prefer a car that's planted or has stability. So when it comes to stability, I think I'm going to go for something like the Aston Martin just because it suits my driving style. Or if I want to be different, probably go for the BMW because it's similar to the Aston and it feels really stable. I've never ever been a fan of a car that's got say for example mid-corner oversteer or just has that kind of little bit of a twitch. I'm more of a comfort driver rather than a driver that likes to have a car that tries to bite me.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I like how I gave you 3 options and then initially you picked the 4th. I quite appreciated that.
But my bad.
It's fine. I enjoyed it. It was good. It was very appropriate of someone to do that. So you get an option, you go, yeah, I'll go for something else. You see, Danny Van Erm has pitted, so he's the first of the top running cars to pit. Nick Carson asks in the YouTube chat, what are the lap times that the leaders are doing? Top 3 are pretty much all exclusively running 55s at the moment. This gaggle of cars are all running in the 56s. And then as we go towards the back end of the top 10, we start to dip into the 57s. So it's a good spread. I think the grid is definitely in the position where you'd expect them to be based on the lap time. And as a result, we're starting to see things maybe kind of just level out a bit, Colin. And we get this, don't we? You get a little bit of craziness at the start of a race. You normally tend to see maybe the 20 to 40 minute cycle of an hour-long race tends to kind of ebb and flow a little bit more. And then as you start to see people making those moves towards the end of the race, knowing there's positions on the line, you tend to get a bit more of the madness come back in, don't you?
Yeah, and as we get towards the that latter 20 minutes, you'll see people that have made those early pit stops coming back into the battles, and particularly with the tyre change required. Those that have made the early stop, they might be on slightly used tyres, especially compared to anyone who's pitting later on.
Yeah, absolutely. Danny Van Erm's going to be one that we're going to definitely have to keep an eye out for. He has come out in P23, so here he is on track right now. So he's obviously, as you can imagine, due to his pace in the race and the fact he's not been caught up in too much, is by far and away the highest running car who has pitted until this point. We can see Mark Cooper is also pitted. I can imagine he's probably pitted because he was caught up in that battle between the two. We've lost a few people so far. I think we've lost Carolus Jurgelis as one of them, and I believe we've lost one of the person, but I can't quite tell who it is.
Carolus is still winning. He's down in 25th.
Oh, sorry. Yes, he is. My apologies, Carolus. I believed it was you, but it was not. I've already forgotten who they were.
Unfortunately, lost Lisa Louise. It's definitely been a race to forget, unfortunately. She fell foul of trying not to ghost through people on the start and ended up teleported back to pits and the start from pit lane. And then I saw she got a disqualification for speeding in the pit lane.
Oh, I mean, yeah, if that's a catalogue of errors in the nice way possible, yeah, it tends to be when it happens at once, they all happen, don't they? Which is a real big shame. But we'll hopefully see Lisa back in a couple of weeks' time when we head to Mazzano for round number 2. Jurgelis, of course, yeah, Jurgelis further back. I thought he wasn't here because I didn't see him at the top, but it is because he has pitted. So he is second of the running cars who has pitted, 13.5 seconds back off of this man, Danny Van Erm. But let's not watch someone just randomly driving around on their own. Let's get back to the battle for P3 as it is now, which is that battle we've seen already, which is the rather kind of gargantuan train of cars, which is Vojedovic, Thimesh, Austin, Gaspar, Coupland, and Disalovic. This is the kind of train, Ryan, you probably want to be in, isn't it? Especially maybe in the middle of, because if you're me, at least anyway, I'm always quicker when I'm driving behind someone else. I will always gain maybe 2-3 tenths of a second if I'm following the lines of someone else. So this is probably great because Vojedovic is clearly quick. We've seen that. He's putting in some fantastic lap times and proved that in qualifying as well. Everyone else is kind of just following him round, aren't they? And just using that to get as much time on the table as possible. It's not to say these guys aren't quick, but it's probably quite a smart way at this stage of the race to really maximise the amount of speed that you're taking through this kind of phase of this race this evening, I would say.
Yeah, this is the thing as well. I always find if I'm running by myself, I don't seem to be as quick. But I find that if I'm running behind someone or running in a pack, you can watch someone in front of you and watch what they're doing, say by what lines are using, what braking points they're using, and you can just in general you can find out and learn new stuff. As it looks like Dustin's about to lose that third position possibly, and it looks like it looks like he tries to do a bit of a cutback. He manages to do that cutback, but is he going to be alongside? Unfortunately, he needs to back out and tuck back in.
Yeah, it was aggressive but fair, I think, from Thimesh there. He's just kind of parked it on the apex and then just sped up a little bit, got a little bit wider, and gone, no, thank you. I'm not going to let you through here. I'm going to carry on doing what I want to do. And as a result, yeah, lovely move from Yannick to get himself up into what is now second place. Realistically, it's going to be, I think, fourth in the net kind of scheme of things, because we have had Andre Ursu has pitted now. As you can see, he's got that little P next to his name in fourth right now. He's much further down than that. But also Van Erm, of course, pitted already. Just trying to see. So that is Andre Ursu coming out now. That's Van Erm. So Van Erm is going to get the move done. The undercut Colin working an absolute charm for him, as we might have come to expect. There may be, at this point, a chance for Van Erm to maybe go right. Fresh tyres. I've got a little bit quicker than him at the moment because I'm just kind of settled in. Get myself a bit of a gap and try and fend off from what you'd imagine might be a little bit more pace from Ursu as they come towards the back end of this one.
Yeah, he's definitely going to have made the best use of those fresh tyres. But we will see from the car behind. It takes a little bit of time to bring the tyres up, even though we've got tyre warmers. It'll just take half a lap to bring them up to their operating temperature. So gives them a chance to just break away a little bit and hopefully put him out of the distance for the tow. And just a quick note further down in the AND class, we've seen the last of our pitters for there. And Nick has also made the most of the undercut and ended up with a 7-second lead on Derek.
Yeah, very good to see. And there's a stop go 30 for Bugajic. Is just coming out of the pit lane now. Looks like it. Yeah, Kasper Bugajic is has unfortunately been slapped to the stop go 30. You'd imagine that's for speeding in the pit lane. And that is the 23 car. Who's the 23 car? That's Leighton Austin. So these are the leaders who are getting caught up in this now, which is really important to consider. We can see Coupland, Gaspar and Dixon all in the pits. So they'll be serving their tyre stops as it speaks, which promotes Thimesh up into P1. We've then got Vojinovic, who is currently just a couple of tenths behind in second place. Leighton Austin a further 2 seconds behind. And then Omlo currently still leading the silver class, but promoted up into P4 as it stands. You guys can't necessarily see that. I can, because I've got a more up-to-date timing chart. If you get a pit wall live, you can still see it, but obviously the timing tower in the sim only updates per sector, which is a bit annoying, as Danny Van Erm puts in the fastest lap of the race. That is a 154.2, which, if I'm not mistaken, Ryan, is far quicker than what Miles Dixon has done by 0.4 of a second. And looking at the gap, 3.9 seconds between these two now. It was about 7 or 8 seconds before. So that undercut, again, really working nicely for Danny in the WCR car.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, absolutely. I think Danny's played an absolute blinder here, pitting when he did, and I think taking full advantage now. And I think I wonder if he can try and drag himself back into contention. But I think that issue in turn 1 for Danny might have just slightly messed his race up. But if he can recover and finish on the podium, I think that will be a good recovery drive.
Yeah, he's certainly in a position to be doing that at the moment. So we see a change for the lead, but that is because I think Yannick Thimesh has come into the pit lane. I think we'll see that P come up against his name any second now. We will, as you can see there, yeah, is into the pits. I was just about to say I've missed a change for the lead, but it's not anywhere near as entertaining as we were hoping it would be. It's just because one of them's got into the pits. So we'll see where Thimesh comes out into the grand scheme of things. Vojinovic and Austin, the two of the front-running cars who are still going around. So we'll see where they come out in there. Further back, it's a battle in... Well, it's a battle in the overall class. It's not a battle for a class position at the moment, but Mark Cooper currently just over a tenth back ahead of Rich Pixley in the Nissan GTR. We'll see whether that GTR has got the pace. You can see there, that is two very different lines, Colin. We were talking about this in qualifying. I don't think you were there at the time, but through the hairpin, so through the Dunlop curve, you've got those two lines you can run, haven't you? You've got the run as you go up. You can almost kind of hug the apex, or you can V off the corner. It's interesting to see two drivers there taking complete opposite lines.
Yeah, these two have been taking opposite lines quite a few times so far this lap. I was on board a couple of minutes ago, just as Mark managed to make the overtake on Richard. Good send down into turn 1, and then Richard tried to go for the cutback, but Mark had the defence of the second corner.
Good to see. So yeah, showing you that different lines can work, and clearly that Ferrari showing that it's got some pretty serious pace in the hands of that one, in the hands of Mark Cooper in the Alitalia Bull car. Won't mention, but he is an employee of a certain rather successful Formula One team. I'm not allowed to tell you which one it is, but let's just say it's a famous energy drink company, and it's not Haas Rich Energy anymore. So here we go, Adam Misalovic then. Half a second behind Carlos Jurgelis. These two have both pitted, and this is proving, Ryan, how Jurgelis, similar to Danny Van Erm, but on a much greater scale, he's been out of the pits for 21 or 22 minutes now. So that's around about a 11 lap stint that he's on now. That's showing that it's worked out well for him, but surely at this point he will start to be struggling on those tyres. And Adam's going to have a chance, being fresh on his boots, to maybe try and make a move and get past that Porsche.
Indeed, and yeah, that's on the one hand, pitting early can get you out of traffic and get you some clear air. But on the other hand, if you do pit early and you put in tyres, basically, if you're pushing after your pit stop, you're using your tyres up pretty much. So if you're pushing after your pit stop, so. On the other hand, pitting early, it can bite you and kind of bite you when it comes to tyre wear.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll see whether Adam Misalovic can get anything done over the next couple of laps as he continues to let his tyres bed in. He's certainly gaining a bit of time, although misses the SGK chicane there to an extent and has to abort stage right and try that one again in a moment. We can see David Kraft, Dusan Vojinovic, and Mark Christopher, and oh god, I'm trying to keep up with the timing chart, and Joran Omlo all in the pit lane. So Coupland, sorry, no, what am I talking about? Thimesh has come out a little bit further behind. We can see stop go cleared for the car 213. That is Kasper Bagajic, who's served and getting rid of that one. It looks like Thimesh has maybe lost a little bit of time in that, but of course, Colin, like we said before, it's that trade-off, isn't it? It's you pit in early, you know you're going to get some time back. If you pit a bit later, you know you're going to have fresher tyres towards the back end of the race, and that looks to be the plan for the 257 car. The only driver at the top end, I say top end, I don't mean this disrespectfully for Chermont, but the only driver in the top car kind of class at the moment who hasn't pitted is Leighton Austin, so he's clearly going a fair stretch further to try and get as fresh a tyres as he can for that final stint of the race.
And sometimes you just want to go for the glory. Stay out as long as you can, hope everyone else pits. And then you just, even if it's briefly, you can be number one.
Well, Leighton Austin took a couple of wins last season, didn't he? And I know you were chatting with him, and he was after a bit of your coaching, and I did quite appreciate your joke about the fact that you reckon you'd coach him slower. That did make me chuckle. And definitely a disservice to your abilities in that area. But you're right, though, aren't you? Like, when you're in that position, it is quite nice every now and again just to say, yeah, I did a couple of laps in the lead, I led for a little while. Nobody needs to know that it's because you didn't pit and everyone else did. It's just quite nice to have that in the locker, you know? Yeah,
very much so. I've done it a few times.
Haven't we all? Look, we've all done it. If someone's saying they haven't done it, then they're definitely lying, 100%. I just want to come back to this man, Danny Van Uyn. We talked about him a little bit, the Dutchman, in the race so far in the 423 West competition race in BMW. He is seriously taking a dent out of Miles Dixon's lead. You can see that is Dixon there. That is about 1.4 seconds between the two of them. It was 1.5 as they crossed the line. He gained half a second pretty much on the last lap. He gained even more on the lap before. These guys are putting in some serious lap times, but this guy is seriously pulling up some trees. He is definitely, Ryan, I think you said it already, didn't you? He is definitely got a bit of a side eye, you'd think, on that potential win of this race, because Miles Dixon, of course, being the net leader, it's definitely an opportunity for him to get into that and really try and get some moves done and try and get that first win of the season.
Absolutely, and I think Dan is probably full of not rage but frustration after his issues on that one. So pretty much just pushing every lap now to try and catch up to Dixon. And I think if he gets right onto the rear of Dixon, I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to make a move straight away just to try and try and rattle Dixon a little bit and not let him settle down too much.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. We've got 25 minutes left in this one as Leighton Austin pits from the lead. So he's done his time as leader in this race, at least for now, unless he has a very, very quick pit stop. But everyone has to do the same pit stop, essentially. So there shouldn't be any major gains from him, apart from any damage that anyone chooses to fix. And, of course, making sure you stop on your marks and things like that as well. Even more interesting, sorry, I'm going back to this again, but Danny Van Uyn, he was actually 3 seconds slower in the pit lane than Miles Dixon as well. He was 3 seconds slower in the stop. So even that into consideration, Colin, shows you that pace is seriously impressive as he sets another purple lap time. This guy is on an absolute mission and is now pretty much within the best part of a second from the leader.
Yeah, he's definitely got his tyre pressures right after the pit stop. In a good battle now, as we see Leighton's pit, Austin stopped as well. So that's the last of the pros. So hopefully before too long we'll see that battle for the lead.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see. So that's going to be Austin back out at the back end of that pro kind of battle at the front, you would call it. He's back out probably about 7 or 8 seconds behind Vujanovic. And that's Jurgelis in the pit lane, is it? I'm not sure what's happened to him. See if we can spot anything on the race control to say that it looks like there might have been an incident between him and another car here. Let's just jump back and see what happens here. This is Adam Asalovic going through the Dunlop curve. Oh, a little bit of contact there and a little bit more contact there. And that is, I mean, it's not that bad. I've seen worse. Unless there's something we've not seen further on in the race that may have further on the lap, that may have caused him to pit and serve some damage. But unfortunate to see that, yeah, Jurgelis dropping back down and currently last of the running cars, I would say, because as much as I don't mean to sound this as a rude way, I don't think we can class Russell Matthieson as a running car anymore because he's been in the pit lane for about the best part of half an hour.
Yes, he's 15 laps down now, so I think we can count them out.
Yeah, Absolutely. This is a battle between teammates. Ash Coupland leads the way by Yannick Thimish at the moment, just by about the tune of about a second at the moment. So still a bit of work for Yannick to do. Danny Van Erm's still just about within that second. And Ursu, actually, I did notice a second ago. I didn't catch the number on there, but I've noticed it's popped up now. Ursu was actually the fastest runner on the last lap as well. You can see that little purple number against his number 4 on the timing tower on the top left. So he did the fastest lap on the last time round as Dominic Chamont finally serves his pit stop with 22 minutes left on the clock. As Ash Coupland, that sideways through there, is he going to hold on to it? He is. He's very mindful. He was going to get himself in the wall there if he wasn't too careful, but he's managed to hold on to it, clearly feeling the pressure from his teammate. So at the moment, it's Miles Dixon who leads the way, just to the tune of a second from Danny Van Erm, who is 2 seconds ahead of Andre Ursu, who was the fastest of all 3 of them last time round. So, Ryan, at this stage of the race, things are really starting to hot up.
Absolutely, absolutely, and yeah, you see there, Danny's just behind there in the background, definitely closing that gap down to Miles, and I wonder if Miles is maybe backing off slightly, looking after his tyres for the pretty much the last 21 minutes of this race, or if it's just a case of maybe Miles is maybe just maybe struggling slightly with tyre pressures, and maybe Danny's got the setup nailed. It looks like Danny's made a slight mistake in the background there, but manages to gather it back up. Yeah, just looking at the live timings, yeah, it looks like he did make a bit of a mistake, because it's kind of leveled out the gaps between 3 of them. It's actually 1.3 from Dixon to Van Erm, and then 1.3 back to Ursu as well. So they are as level as you can get at this moment in time. Let's jump back a bit further back in the grid. We can see Rich Pickley has managed to get back past Mark Cooper. We heard that that move happened a few laps ago, but it looks like Pixley has managed to get himself back up into P13. And of course, this is Mark Cooper, who is 3rd in the AM class at the moment. That's Craig Hewlett very much on his backside, who's going to be looking to try and take that silver class final podium position. They are... In fact, no, I'm completely wrong, because Dominic Chamont has pitted, of course, and that's actually put him back down into 4th in class. So this is a battle for 2nd in the class, and they are about 10 seconds back off Joran Omlo, who so far in this race has had an absolute cracker of this race so far. He seems to have kept himself clean, and as a result, he is just about hanging on to a position in the top 10.
Yeah, I was a bit nervous for Joran after the pit stop, because he was a lot closer to Mark. He was only about 5 seconds ahead, so it looked like Mark Cooper managed to make use of his early pit stop and gain some time, but unfortunately for Mr. Cooper, being stuck in this battle with Rich and with Craig Hewlett, it's definitely costing him time to Joran ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you can see that rear wing camera that we've just gone on there really highlights, Colin, what you said about, it was Ryan, you said it was about the amount of top-end speed that Nissan has. Mark Cooper's got a slipstream, and yes, he might well have had a slightly subpar exit at that corner, but the amount of time that Pixley gained on those two then was astonishing, consider the length of that straight. And it really shows you how much he is benefiting using this car in, I'd say, maybe like the final sector across to the first corner of the lap. He's really finding that Nissan's top end speed is really benefiting him. Saying that, he's not even the fastest car in a straight line at the moment.
Yeah, that's the thing as well, but this Nissan GTR, it's maybe not the best car to have in the corners, but on the straights it seems to be doing the job for Pixley, staying ahead at the moment. And yeah, as Pixley runs wide slightly and just manages to keep it off the grass. I thought he was going to spin round there, but manages to keep it going and keep it straight. But yeah, he definitely taking advantage of this Nissan's top speed, and they keep ahead of the cars behind him. And yeah, Cooper and Hewlett behind him are probably getting very frustrated at the fact that they keep getting close, but they just can't get by or make any moves.
Yeah, just can't do enough to get that move done, can they? It can be very frustrating when you're in that kind of position, as is the position for Yannick Thimish at the moment. He is still behind Ash Coupland. This is probably less frustrating though, because I can only imagine that these two are probably having a bit of a natter away in their own little Discord channel or wherever they are as a team for WCR, and probably just cracking on with things. That is another fastest lap for another different driver, Dusan Vojinovic now. He's kind of dropped back a little bit, Colin. He was very much in the swing of things at the top end of it, but for one reason or another, has lost a bit of time in the pit stop phase. He's obviously, as we saw there, he's starting to get a bit of time back, but he's lost a lot of time. I think that's primarily due to the fact he pitted, like Leighton Austin did, so much later than everyone else.
Yeah, it looks like that strategy's not worked out for him, but the fresh tyres now and the low fuel, making the most and putting those purple times in, might see him catch Assetto before the end of the race. Only a couple of seconds between them, but it's 5 seconds up to 6th place, so I don't think we'll see him getting that far.
No, that's going to be quite difficult, and these guys are putting in some pretty impressive lap times to kind of running the low 55s at the moment. The top 4 all running in the low to mid 54s at the moment. So actually, Gabriel Gaspar, the fastest of the top 4 in the last lap, of 54.67, closely followed by a 54.70 for Miles Dixon, and another 54.7 for Danny Van Erm, and a 54.9 for Andre Ursu. But that was an invalid lap, so I'm not sure whether he took a little bit of an excursion onto the grass the last time round. Let's jump back down to this battle, the battle for P15. This is Dominic Chamon, who's just come out of the pit lane. He was the last of the running cars to pit, I believe. Yeah, he's been out on track for the last 4.5, or pretty much best part of 5 minutes, and definitely, yeah, was the last person to pit in this one. He has got a Rennes de Lange behind him, close for company. A new face for this season, Colin. A very late new face, as we saw. Just popped into the season about an hour before the entry list was closed, so good timing from him. Putting on a decent display so far. He's not necessarily pulled up any trees. He's not necessarily been kind of in the thick of things either. It's probably what you want a first race of a season to be when you're in a new community, isn't it? You want to maybe try to not keep a low profile as such, but not make a name for yourself too early on.
Yeah, you don't want to tread on any toes and start making enemies on your first race. Ooh, as we see a bit of drama further down, Mark Cooper has just made a mistake through the chicane and he's lost 2nd place in the silver class.
See if we can get a replay of that one. Yeah, coming up into there. Oh, dearie me. That looks like he was maybe a little bit too hot and heavy on the brakes. I don't know. I mean, look, let's face it. I think we all know that's not a position you're going to be making a move on, but maybe just went a little bit too hot and heavy. Looking at a move against Pixley, ultimately didn't pan out, as we saw. Luckily for him, though, didn't lose too much time as a result. And although he's lost the position, he's still got Craig Hewlett in front of him. And realistically, Ryan, that's probably the position he wants to be making sure he keeps if he can, because, of course, we said already before this evening, that's the position that gains him more points in the class itself, which is the important thing.
Absolutely. Still currently running in 3rd place in class, and I think that's I think if he finishes there, with pretty much just under 15 minutes to go. I think if he finishes there, he'll be happy with that for the first race of the season. I mean, yeah, it's not winning his class or winning the race in general, but it's, at the end of the day, sometimes it's better to think of the bigger picture and just take the points. And I mean, it's still a podium result in class at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. It's still a decent result if he can get it. Of course, well, in fact, he's got the final place in the podium, of course. Might want to get a little bit more if he can. We'll see how we get on. Let's jump back to a bit further back, and a man we haven't really seen much of throughout this evening, but per boss man Mark Raddenbury. He is currently in P23, but excuse me, very much trying to get himself up a position up into P22. He's going around the outside of Hackinson, and he's done a fantastic job there, it has to be said. It's almost like we've planned that to happen. It is completely by chance, but just as we go on to the Mark's camera angles, we see a position made, which is always quite nice to see at the end of the day. So he is up into, what's that now, P22. Freddie Coleman-Evans is pitting again. Not sure what that's for. Maybe some damage that he's received there. He will now be back into the pits. You can see Karen Jurgelis has not returned out from the pit lane, so his race is done. We'll keep an eye on Freddie Coleman-Evans to see whether that will be the same for him. In the meantime, at the top end of the charts again, Miles Dixon has actually gained a little bit of time back, so it's now back up to just under 2 seconds, the gap at the top. And Ursu has dropped back a little bit as well. He is now 2.5 seconds back on Danny Van Erm as well. So it's, again, ebbing and flowing at the top, Ryan, as we expect it would do. We'll see whether any of those guys at the top end, I'm looking maybe more specifically to Miles, because he was the last one to pit, of course. Van Erm being one of the early ones to pit. We'll see whether that that difference in tyre age maybe starts to become a bit more prevalent as we go into the final 10 minutes of this race.
Yeah, but it'll be interesting to see for sure. And I think Van Erm won't give up by any means, but I think I think towards the end of the race, maybe the final 10 minutes, 5 or 10 minutes, you'll probably see if his tyres are starting to drop off. But yeah, credit to Miles Dixon as well. He's handled the pressure thrown by Van Erm pretty well, and doing a good job so far. As the battle for P15 and 16 is going on at the moment, and Chamont's still doing well, currently running in 4th place in the silver class, I believe. And I think he probably doesn't want to make any silly moves at the moment. But if he senses an opportunity to try and make a move on the land, I think he'll probably go for it.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not sure if I've gotten this the wrong way around, but I'm pretty sure that was it was Chamon ahead of DeLange a moment ago. I could be wrong, but I think you're right. I think he's got to be mindful of the fact that Ollie Geel is 4 seconds behind. He's a driver that actually I don't think I've even noticed on the timing charts. I don't mean that in a bad way. He's just kind of been in the middle of the road this evening. So he's got to be mindful of the fact that Ollie, he's basically within a mistake, isn't he, Colin? Like, that's probably the way I would describe it. It says 4 seconds, but depending on what it is, that's a mistake kind of time that you could gain a position in, isn't it? Especially when you're around here, and it's quite an old school circuit, isn't it? It's very much, there's no loads of runoff. It's not like Mazzano in a couple of weeks that we're going to. It's very much you're off, you're in the gravel. Worst case, you're in the wall.
Yeah, with 11 minutes to go, you only need half a second a lap, which isn't even a big mistake. It's only a couple of small mistakes, losing, very easily lose a couple of seconds, like running wide, being slow up the hill, and then all of a sudden you'll find that car right with you, challenging you for the spectators.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely something to be mindful of. I think it was a change for position because I've just looked at the last lap times for DeLange and for Chamont, and it was 1.2 seconds. DeLange was quicker than him, than Chamont on the last lap, so I'm assuming there was a mistake there. Sadly for Mark Cooper, it looks like he's falling back a little bit off the back of this couple of cars, so looks like Hewlett will be looking forwards rather than backwards, and he will be looking at it into the Michelin curve. Is he going to look around the outside? Pixley's going to cover the inside. He's not really going to have much to do there. Rich Pixley parks that car perfectly where it needs to be without giving Hewlett any opportunities really to get that move done. He can't go to the outside. He can't really go to the inside. Pixley is personifying that kind of feeling of a cool, calm head, Ryan. And although he's not in the fastest car, which we have said many times throughout this race this evening, he's proving that it really doesn't actually matter if you can control a race in the kind of way that he is.
Absolutely, and Pixley's doing a good job as well. He's not letting the pressure get to him, and he's placing the car where he needs to, and he's defending, but he's not defending aggressively. So I think that McLaren's quick in a straight line as well, but I think it's just missing. It's just the nature of that GTR. It's just got the extra horsepower, and they basically having hardly any drag as well seems to be helping. But I think Hewlett as well, currently running second in the silver class, he needs to be mindful of that and not do anything silly and throw away that result.
Yeah, definitely. You can actually see that this battling between them and the fact they've had to go past Poe, I think that is in the Aston Martin, who's obviously a backmarker at this moment in time, it's given Mark Cooper the chance just to kind of come back a little bit. He was a couple of tenths quicker on the last lap, so he's ebbing and flowing is that gap. Speaking of gaps, the gaps to the leaders at the moment is continuing to kind of expand a little bit. I think maybe Danny Van Erm's tyres have just started to fall away a touch. He's not falling back into the clutches of Ursu, he'll be pleased to hear, but he is dropping away quite a marked amount from Miles Dixon. It's now up to 3 seconds, that gap, as we've entered now the final 10 minutes of this curtain raiser here, the first round of the Positive Perception GT Championship. Miles Dixon is your current race leader. He started the race from 5th on the grid, so he has gained 4 positions off the start, and he pretty much gained them all at the start. It's Craig Hewlett. That is a huge move. He goes into the Michelin curve. He's not going to get the move done, and that's going to give Mark Cooper a bit of impetus to try and get that silver class second place out of there. He's going to go really wide through the left-hand, of the right-hand, sorry, to go onto the back straight. Hewlett kind of plays the Max Verstappen move, I would say, and maybe just runs him out of road a little bit, but that is a prime example, Colin, of he was a mistake away from losing the position there, but as well as that, it shows how mindful you need to be of the fact that other people are still quite close to you. You can't make a move unless you're kind of almost certain it's going to pay off.
Yeah, as we see, Rich is a very clever driver. obviously seen that come in and backed out of it to get that cut back and let the other driver run off track.
Yeah, very sensible. Hewlett again. It's nearly so close to the back end of that Nissan GTR. I'm sure Denise Pope, who's the designer and the owner of Wild Things Racing, is possibly watching this right now, wincing, thinking, please don't damage the back of my car, because I've put a lot of time and effort into designing such a beautiful thing. But Craig Hewlett is getting as close as he dare without actually leaving any marks on the back of that Nissan. Mark Cooper is, I'm sure, waiting in earnest and just hoping, Ryan, that a mistake is made. He goes for a move, it doesn't quite work like he did a lap ago, and see if he can use that opportunity, because that's what I'd be doing in this position. I wouldn't necessarily be forcing the issue with 7 minutes to go. I've got a couple more laps. I would probably just give Craig a couple more chances if he makes any silly moves, and potentially do the same as he did on the last lap, and then try and capitalise on it if I can.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the move that Craig made the previous lap was just a bit of desperation, as he's got a terrific run now behind Pixley, and I think Pixley's going to defend the position. They actually decides to stay on the racing line rather. But I think yeah, if I'm Craig, I would pretty much just settle down again and try and plan where I'm going to make a move. But I think Craig needs to be mindful as well that the next competition in class is Cooper, who's right behind him. So if Hewlett slips up and does anything silly again, Cooper will be there to pick up that second place in class.
If I was Craig at this point, I'd be very mindful of Mark Cooper behind. I'd be trying to stick into that toe behind Rich Pixley, build that buffer again, because those two together are a little bit quicker than Mark Cooper. Get a couple of seconds buffer, wait till maybe the last lap and do or die, as it were. But nice, safe but aggressive move on the last lap. When you know you've got that buffer to the car behind it, you're not going to lose a place.
Yeah, you use the laps wisely now if you're in Craig's position, don't you? You want to size up your opponent. I know he's been sat behind him for a lot of this second kind of period of the race, but starting to understand, right, where am I quicker than him? Where am I slower than him? What can I then potentially do with that? I mean, there's always going to be points in the track. No one is going to be quicker when you're this close to each other anyway. No one is going to be quicker than you across every portion of the lap. There are going to be points where you are quicker. There's going to be points where you're slower. So you want to try and understand that as much as you can and make sure that the move you're making is at the right point. And it is like, you'd equate it almost to a game of chess, wouldn't you? Like, you've got to kind of think almost a few corners ahead. Like, yes, I'm going to make the move into the first corner, but do I want to make the move around the outside? Can I hold it around the outside because then I'll get the inside for the left-hander? And it's things like that, isn't it, Colin, where the racecraft becomes more important, and that's the kind of thing that isn't necessarily easy to practice offline, essentially, is it? Because you have to just do it in a race. You can't even kind of manufacture that sort of thing, can you? It's very much a case of you've got to get into the race, you've got to test them out, and the more you drive together with these people, as a lot of these drivers have now, I think the more you'll get the opportunity really to try and understand where their strengths and weaknesses are, and that's when moves become a little bit easier to make, I think.
Yeah, totally. And with the different drivers and their different styles, you know, some of them are going to defend aggressively, some of them might not do the different corners that they choose to defend on. As we see here, Richard a little bit deep into the hairpin. Has he got the run down the straight? He's definitely going to have the inside line.
See this from the top end. As you see, Craig, he's got alongside him, and that's important, but he brakes quite early into the first corner. Interesting move from him. You'd have thought he might have just tried to be a little bit later on the brakes and see if he can just crowd out Pixley on the apex, but no, has to resort to another lap behind the Nissan. And Mark Cooper now, Ryan, is very much on the back of that McLaren now, isn't he? He will be licking his lips and thinking, right, any move that Craig makes that isn't 100% on, I'm going for it. I am getting past him. I want that second in class. Yeah,
absolutely. I think if Cooper can get close enough to Hewlett, he might try and make a move. So if Hewlett starts getting into a scrap with Cooper, that could allow Pixley to pull away and just about build up a buffer as they. Oh, Craig, what were you doing? That was never on.
No, that was a day late and $1 short, and that is something that I'm sure Colin, the stewarding team headed by yourself, will be looking at some point over the next week or so, because that was one of those. If you don't mind me saying, it was quite a lazy move. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't need to happen. It was very much like oh yeah, she kind of fell into him sort of thing. And it's a real shame because that had the makings of a really decent battle, and it had been over the last kind of 5, 10, 15 minutes or so. But it's a shame it had to end like that. I suppose the one kind of bit I take away from it, from a broadcaster's point of view at least, is at least the one who made the incident happen is the one who's come out worst off. Like, as ridiculous as it sounds.
And it's led to something interesting here as well. So Mark Cooper's now found himself in second, and Showmont has found himself right on the back, looking at the second place on the podium.
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost spiced this up completely. Then you've got DeLange, Pixley, and Hewlett is still in the mix of things. He's still pretty close behind, but Showmont has now got a chance to, yeah, like you say, Colin, get the chance to have a look at that second place in class. So he's got to be mindful here, does Cooper. That, unfortunately, not necessarily the fastest in a straight line, so he's got that to bear in mind. But with that slipstream, you can see he's pulling a little bit closer. Cooper looks like he's just going to shape to the inside there, so Showmont will take the outside. DeLange is going to be looking at this with open eyes as well and see if he can make a move happen. Showmont's going to try round the outside. Is he going to try and get the move alongside? Is he going to be alongside Cooper as they go into the stadium section? No, he's not. Cooper just about manages to hold on. Oh, as he goes sideways through there, and Showmont's going to look up the inside. It's going to be super close. I've seen Showmont race before. He's a very, very clean driver, it has to be said. So we'd like to see no contact between these two, please. Is he going to go out the outside as they exit the stadium section? Wow-wee. DeLange is going to try and get this move done as well as he's going to try and get the move done as they go into the corner. Oh, contact between the three of them. Oh, no, it was so unfortunate. It looked like, I don't know about you guys, but it looked like DeLange just got the inside of Cooper, who then tagged him into Showmont, and Dominic Showmont there was essentially just a passenger as Pixley's in there as well. It's all getting a little bit fruity as they come down towards the Dunlop curve for the second to last time as DeLange nearly goes into the back of Cooper there. And somehow we've come back with the same three, just in a different order than we had about 5 minutes ago.
Wow, what an exciting race.
Oh, Cooper's gone wide now, so he's going to be at risk from both of them. Hewlett's going to get the inside 3 wide into the Michelin curve. Are they all going to get through here cleanly? They are just about. Oh, Hewlett.
No, they're not.
They're not.
Oh,
Hewlett and
shame.
Pixley coming together. So Cooper, after all of that, is just about going to come out in the same position. He's got Pixley. We know how quick that Nissan is in a straight line. DeLange is on the back end of this. Please don't go 3 wide into the chicane now. Please, guys, don't do this. We don't need this again. Looks like Pixley has just about got the move done. DeLange is going to look around the outside. That is a ballsy move. Oh, my goodness me. Wow. That is impressive from Rennes DeLange. Ryan, we were talking earlier about the fact that he maybe didn't want to make any enemies, but he's certainly making the stream hot up at the back end of this one. What a move.
Yeah, that was a bit, was it the word they like to use sometimes? Ballsy.
That was incredible stuff from those lot. It's a shame we had some of the contact that we did, but that was some fantastic racing at the back end of that, and they've got one more lap, I should say, to finish this one off. We're going to go back to the leader of this one as we come round through the final couple of corners. Poe will make sensible moves to be overtaken by Miles Dixon this one last time as he comes through the SGK chicane. He took the lead through the first couple of corners. He was invited to take the lead from 5th on the grid. He has not relinquished it since. Comes sliding through the Coca-Cola curve for one final time, and that'll be Miles Dixon, reigning pro champion, will take the first win of the season here at the Nurburgring GP circuit. Danny Van Oom in his first race here with the Positive Perception crew comes through in a very respectable second place, and Andre Ursu will round out the podium positions in this first round of the season in the overall standings. Gabriel Gaspar will come through for a very decent 4th place just in the end ahead of Yannick Dimersch. So it's a West Competition Racing 2.56 in Ash Coupland, and it'll be a 2.569 with Austin coming through in there as well. Salovic, interestingly, deciding not to take a very, should we say, a standard line over a standard run over the line. Austin comes through in 9th place, Vojinovic in 8th place. David Kraft will eventually come through in 10th place. He did get past this man who will be your silver class winner, which is Joran Omlo. Your AM class winner looks to be Nick Karayanis, it would appear, as he gets past Mark Christopher on the final lap, courtesy of what looks to be a mistake for them. In fact, they've all been caught up in it, it seems. No, they're not. Yellow flags have gone. Joran Omlo, as you said there, will come through to take the silver class victory for the first round of the season. And it'll be this man, Nick Karayanis, in around about 25 seconds time, who will take the win in the AM class. Only just though, because we think he will, because that's Steve Derrick right behind him, yeah. In fact, Steve's got a great run. Is he going to go to it's outside into the SGK chicane? No, he's not going to hold on to it. He'll see if he can get the move done. Will Nick make anything happen here? Derek's got a great run. Is he going to... Surely he's going to send it up the inside, is he? Oh, well covered there from Nick. They go through the final corner. This is not how I expect the AM class thing to finish off, but it's going to be super duper close. Steve's going to get the run to the line. He's going to try and get the move done, but he's not. That is incredible stuff from those guys. And that brings an end to the first round of the season. Miles Dixon takes the win in the pro class. Joran Omlo takes the win in the silver class, and Nick Karianis just about takes the win in the AM category. Colin, I'll come to you first. That was a barnstormer of a finish. It maybe died down a little bit in the middle, but the end of that race was something to behold.
Well, it's exactly as we talked about early on in the race. You get that big push at the start of the race, 20 minutes as we settle and find our groove. And then as the pit stops unfold and you get into the last 20 minutes and it all comes back together, and that's exactly what we saw.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic race from all of those involved. Ryan, from your perspective, obviously it was a great race, wasn't it? I mean, I think you called out, I think it was Ash Cooper, you called out at the start, of course, it was always going to be difficult for him once the position was, once the incidents happened in the first couple of laps, but did a decent job to come back to 6th place. I don't think anyone expected Miles Dixon, did they?
Yeah, I thought anyway, Miles Dixon would have had a harder task doing well tonight, or trying to win this race, because Ash Coupland and Danny Van Orn done well in qualifying, and my money was on Ash Coupland to possibly win this race, but unfortunately just caught up in that lap one mayhem, and they unfortunately ended up falling back down to 11th at one point. But 6th place, it's still a decent recovery drive, and it's still points on the board.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic display from those involved, and fantastic work from both of you. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's been a fantastic start to the season, and obviously a big thanks to all of those of you who have joined in and tuned into the stream. As you always do, if you haven't done already, I'm going to say it now before I forget. If you haven't done, like the stream, subscribe, all that great stuff. And feel free, jump in the chat. You don't have to sit there quietly. You can join in and have a natter with us as well. But on behalf of myself, David Ressel, I've been joined by the luxury of Colin Dunn for one time this season. Lovely to have you, Colin. It's been great to have you join us. And Ryan Walker, thank you so much for joining us as well. On behalf of the three of us, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back with you in a couple of weeks for Mazzano for round number 2. We will see you guys then. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. Take care. Bye-bye.